Okay, to help us work through what we can expect from the Fed as well as the Trump administration, let's bring in Ted Rossman. Ted's a senior industry analyst for both Bankrate.com and creditcards.com. It's good to see you again. Thanks for taking time.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Okay, let's start by taking a broad look at the Fed and what's going on right now. What do you think is going to be built into the markets in this latest meeting? What are we looking for?
Many are saying that the Fed is hoping for the most boring meeting in a while. And that's really because there's a lot of other intrigue in the world right now. The Fed doesn't really want to be part of it. There's very little chance that they're going to change interest rates tomorrow. This is going to be a status quo kind of meeting. The intrigue is more what happens next.
Yeah.
For example, is there going to be another cut in March, perhaps? Is there going to be a longer pause? Odds are kind of split at this point as far as maybe a March cut, maybe a June cut. We're not going to see a move tomorrow. I think the Fed's going to want to let some of the dust settle on the early days of the Trump administration and wait for some more data to come in on jobs and other aspects of the economy.
Yeah, good point. Let's take a look at the economic landscape in the U.S. right now. A lot of good, a lot of positive information out there. One big hiccup, and that's consumer confidence. Jobs, inflation are pretty good right now. But just the fact that this dark cloud is hanging out there, what does it mean?
Consumer confidence has never rebounded from the initial drop at the pandemic. We saw a huge drop in early 2020, and even though things have gotten a lot better since then in many respects, consumer confidence has only regained about half of that initial drop. It's kind of shocking, but it has to do with inflation. People are not feeling good about the economy because of the high cost of living. And that's really the key data point, certainly for consumers, but also for the Fed. The Fed has this dual mandate to promote stable prices and maximum employment. So really the two big numbers they look at are inflation data and jobs data, but really the mandate has been mostly focused on inflation these past couple of years. And yes, it's come down considerably, but it's still not as low as the Fed would like, and it's really not as low as consumers would like. The big misconception among consumers is they hear lower inflation and they think, well, great, prices are rolling back to where they were in 2019. Unfortunately, as we know, lower inflation means prices are still growing. They're just growing more slowly. That's been a bitter pill for people to swallow, just because they're paying higher prices for housing and food and just about everything else.
Yeah. And Ted, you knew this question's coming. Donald Trump has come storming in. He's bringing politics to the door of the FOMC. He has said that he wants interest rates lower, and he wants it done now, quickly. Is this reckless? What is it going to do to the Fed?
The Fed's really going to preserve its independence. You heard in the previous piece the word sacrosanct. I mean, it's just so much a part of the Fed's fabric that they're politically independent. And that's something that Jerome Powell is going to fiercely defend. Defending the Fed's right to be independent with its interest rate decisions, and also his ability to stay at the helm of the Fed and not be fired at will. So I really think the Fed's going to dig in here and really be very data dependent and not subject to the whims of political leanings.
Okay, but using this past week as a yardstick, the United States is in a political climate where there is no room for any disagreement with Trump. Run afoul of him and risk Trump's wrath. So how is this going to play out with the Fed? Is he going to try to fire Powell, and can he fire the governors and look for more loyal Fed governors?
By law, Trump can't fire Powell. There is some thought that maybe there's a roundabout kind of way that Powell's term ends in the spring of next year. So is there maybe a feeling that some of the other officials could be replaced with those that are maybe more loyal to Trump, and then there's this kind of shadow Fed going on? I don't know. Some of that feels very sort of clandestine, and it's been floated as one possibility. I think that Trump has a lot of other fish to fry. I don't think that the Fed is necessarily at the top of that list. You remember he kind of came in with guns blazing about, I'm going to fire the CFPB chair on the first day, and more than a week later, he's still there. And some of this is kind of campaign trail bluster. There was a 10% credit card rate cap floated at one point. It doesn't seem like that's going anywhere. I tend to think that for the most part, the onus will be shifted elsewhere. And I fully expect Powell to finish
Yeah.
this term.
Okay, we don't have a lot of time. So how would you grade the Fed's overall work the past 4 years? One can argue the U.S. economy has been stabilized. And what if Trump's budget plans and tax cuts add significantly to the federal deficit?
Many thought the Fed was too slow to act when inflation ramped up in 2021 and 22, and they were kind of behind the curve there. They've gotten better marks for the way down, and time will tell, but the fact that we haven't had a recession is meaningful. So I think overall the Fed's done pretty well. Slow to start, better of late, and markets are stable right now. Things are pretty much where the Fed wants them to be. They're going to take a wait and see approach with tariffs and some of these other policies because that could have a meaningful impact on consumers and the economy and inflation moving forward.